Yes, as mentioned, I'm Tom Palmer. I'm from Essex County Council. I recently moved back there from Southend City Council, where I was working on an FCRIP project, so one of the EA's and DEFRA's innovation projects called Catchment to Coasts. So I'm going to talk a bit about that, some examples of what it was doing, and how I'm trying to kind of bring that to a local authority that's not got money to do that and try and make it business as usual. Okay. So I won't go into too much detail, so I've only got 10 minutes, but just to explain a bit of the background behind the FCRIP programme, depending on where you are, you've probably got one nearby. There's 25 across the country, but Southend and Thurrock teamed up to put in a bid back in 2021 now. Historically, not been able to attract much funding to the area because it's very urban, very developed, and the cost-benefit ratios didn't add up purely due to the way we get a lot of grant funding, very expensive measures to kind of reduce the risk. South Essex as well, there's very flashy catchments due to the topography, the soils and the urban nature. Also get lots of flooding from multiple sources. Things like tide locking is a very key issue as well. And just to add into the mix, we had a lot of coastal historic landfills, which people thought were a good idea back in the day to make seawalls out of. And being in East Anglia, we're also short of water on the other kind of side of the fence as well in summer. So lots going on. So of course, we're very lucky to get money to go and do some measures. And so the FCRIP programme is very much focused on innovation, learning, data gathering, with the goal of kind of influencing policy and funding mechanisms going forwards. So the kind of bias at the moment towards numbers of properties protected, which the EA has, and the kind of less focus on the multiple benefits. The goal is to kind of switch that. So it's part of the project. We have 16 sites. So it's a 6-year project, about halfway, well, 3/4 of the way through now. So we're starting building a lot of stuff on site or finishing up. 16 sites across the project. We split them into upper, middle and lower based on their location in the catchment and the types of measures. So I'm going to talk about the kind of the mid catchment today, which is the kind of the retrofit and the SUDs in the urban areas in kind of the mid catchment. And we had lots of partners as part of the project as well. I won't go through all of those, but huge range of expertise, and that's going to be a key learning, which I'll come to later. So going into some examples, the first one, and again, I won't go through all of these. I've put a web link to the project at the end, so you can go and have a look yourselves. But the first one we did was we retrofit a social house with water efficiency measures. Basically, it was being bought from the open market by our kind of social housing team. They did it up in terms of energy efficiency, so it's in the top 0.2% in terms of thermal efficiencies and all sorts of things like that, which I don't fully understand, I won't lie. We found out about it, said, hello, can we get involved, please? And they said yes. So we went to town on it in terms of kind of water and SUDs. So there's a huge list of the things we've done there. Lots of things internally to do with like flow restrictors and a water recycling unit that takes water from the bath and the upstairs sink and it cleans it and then can be used to flush the toilet and go into the washing machine. We've got a flow restrictor as well, so the house uses 40% less water than it would do normally and it doesn't affect the pressure. We put in permeable paving around the entire house, climate resilient planting. The roof now drains and feeds the planters on 2/3 of the roof, and the other third feeds the water butt. So we took the outside tap off as well, because it's a bit ridiculous that you can use drinking water to water your plants. So these people that are now in it are kind of forced to use the water butt. And we also put in some SUDs in the highway, which are actually looking better on Google Street View now than they did from the photos I've got, which is really good to see. So this was finished not last November, the November before, and then February, residents went in. So we're gathering data at the moment about how the cost savings and things like that to kind of learn what measures worked well and what haven't, and to kind of influence policy going forwards. I'm going a bit slowly on here, my clock. Another site to flag up is Manchester Drive. There's a kind of another Google Street View at the top there. It's a road with a very wide median, a localized, quite a small catchment, but it all just disappears into a surface water sewer and then down into a river, and which has flooding problems. And then a lot of houses around there are flooded, as has the allotment. So what we're doing here is retrofitting some suds, daylighting some sewers, and putting in some planting, some mycelium, so mushrooms in bags, to filter the water. And then we're also looking to put in some kind of sand, charcoal and UV filters before it goes into 100,000 litres of tanks. And the goal being that that can be reused in the allotment. Obviously, it's got to be appropriate because people could be eating the produce, but it's good to have that opportunity. So whatever happens, the water will be cleaner going into the river and controlled, but we're hoping to reuse it and take a huge bill off the allotment because they use a lot of water currently. So I'll go on to a few. Obviously, that was my old job, so it's a great project to talk about. A bit sad to see it gone, to move on, but it's been good to kind of do some really interesting things there and have that ability, and then sort of bring that to a more normal situation, I suppose is the right word, because Catchment to Coast was a pilot. There's lots of money for pilots, lots of great schemes, and there's a bit of a disconnect in terms of doing that normally. And part of that I've listed there is local authorities are, well, a lot of people are very risk averse. And I think that's a big issue we need to get over. Just got to do it. The pilots work. We know they work. It's just got to try and get better at doing it all the time. So for me personally, in Essex, we've done a lot of really good flood schemes, but they're the top kind of two photos there. It's a lot of landscaping, so it gets the numbers of properties and attracts the funding. Basically, they're a bit boring, if I'm honest. I look back at them. They're nice public open spaces that have been re-landscaped, but they could be a bit better than that. So we're starting to switch a bit more to the things at the bottom. You can see the kind of the SUDS retrofit, the more localized schemes to reduce surface water flooding to properties, but also improve the area, get those multiple benefits around the water quality, the biodiversity, the amenity, and then all the things that come with that in terms of kind of the health benefits and the social benefits as well. And I've also learned that through Catchment to Coast, kind of, it's hard to work sometimes with colleagues, and it's a bit of an odd thing to say, but local authorities are very head down, working very hard. Silos exist. We always go on about silos and smashing them down, but it's very tricky. And Catchment to Coast was a really good opportunity to kind of step outside of those, and that's a philosophy I'm bringing to kind of Essex, and just looking to bring in different strategies as well, because they just completely link together as well. So I've only been here 2 months, so I'm talking from kind of some things I'm still in the process of doing. So that's kind of more of an Essex focused kind of approach, and this slide is about kind of the bigger picture. Because Catchment Coast, as you saw from the partners, lots of different organisations involved, and I'm very fortunate that a lot of the people I work with there overlap Essex as well. So people like Anglian Water, Essex and Suffolk Water, and the Environment Agency. So those connections have continued, which is really good, and we're already having some great conversations about how we can work together. Including looking at regional mapping to see if we can link our programs to identify opportunities. I know there's a lot of systems already. There's one around kind of nature-based solutions that the Rivers Trust have. There's also the Environment Agency, what's it, the Stakeholder Beneficiary Mapping Tool, which is very good. But it's that siloed nature, and we need to try and kind of find a way to link up better as well. Even with people like Essex Highways, we struggle to kind of get them on board too. We've also found that kind of climate resilience, so Karis mentioned this a little bit, is from our experience that immediately people think energy efficiency, carbon, things like that, and they don't really think about the water so much, but it's a very key part of it, and especially in East Anglia where we're running out of it, let's be honest. We're going to be getting less and more gaps between it, and more demand from development and things. It's a growing issue that a lot of people in organisations aren't fully aware of. So I suppose that comes to the bottom two bits as well, that we just kind of have to shout about it really and go and annoy people, and that's what I'm doing at the moment, under the guise of being, I'm just sticking my nose in everyone's business and asking what projects they're doing and seeing how we can link up. And it's identified a lot of opportunities. So yeah, like working with the water companies to do this mapping. I've got a good relationship now with the highways, which hadn't been so good, where we're looking to do some retrofit projects. And again, as Karis mentioned, it's sort of kind of a door to multiple funding streams, really, which is something we found. We've historically focused on the water and the Environment Agency funding around property benefits, but the green infrastructure side of it, the public health side of it is massive. So that's really good. So yeah, just have to go and speak with people, go and annoy them, and try and work together, I suppose. So, and that brings me to the end. So yeah, I'll put the website there and my contact details.